everyone, welcome back to Twin Proto TV. Today I wanted to do something a little different than what I've done in past videos and speculate about the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth expansion coming out to Magic the Gathering next year. Coming out in Q3 of 2023 is the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth, a straight-to-modern booster product for Magic the Gathering. This is one of the biggest products in the somewhat controversial Universes Beyond line of products. As of the time of recording, so far Universes Beyond has been solely in Secret Lairs, with crossovers with The Walking Dead, Stranger Things, and Street Fighter. There have also been reskins of already done cards for things like Fortnite and Arcane. There are announced Commander products in Secret Lairs for Warhammer 40k and Doctor Who, but so far this is the first set that will be made up entirely of Universe Beyond cards. We have had 2 Dungeons & Dragons sets in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms and Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate, but they do not fall under the moniker of Universes Beyond because both Dungeons & Dragons and Magic the Gathering are owned by Wizards of the Coast, but are not canon to one another. Now, as of today, the information of the set is more or less unknown. There will be a set of full art cards that, when put all together, will create a scene of the Battle of Pelennor Fields, which I think would be pretty awesome to collect and frame like a poster. The set will be accompanied by 4 Commander products in a series of Secret Lairs. The set will also be available for Historic and Alchemy play on MTG Arena in the form of an Alchemy Remix set, similar to the one given to the Battles of Baldur's Gate. Being a fan of both Lord of the Rings and Magic the Gathering, I thought it'd be fun to speculate on what lore and mechanics might be in the set. The rights to the Lord of the Rings is kind of a muddled mess. Currently, the Embracer Group has the merchandising rights to the Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, which this project is most likely going to deal exclusively with. The Tolkien estate and HarperCollins still have complete control of Tolkien's literary works, and most importantly, the early events of Middle-earth like the Silmarillion, the Children of Hurin, and the Lost Tales. If they can use the appendices featured at the end of The Return of the King, that will offer some overlap with these earlier tales. I'm not a legal person, and from what I've read, it seems divided by The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings versus everything else. If I'm missing anything, please leave a comment. One thing I'm confident of is there will be characters and moments not featured in the Peter Jackson films, like Tom Bombadil and the Burrowites, and expanded roles for characters like Glorfindel. If it wasn't obvious, this set has the rights to the lore of the novels and not the Peter Jackson films, so Legolas is not going to look like Orlando Bloom, unlike the Stranger Things Secret Lair where Eleven looked like Millie Molly Brown. Legolas may not even be blonde because it's never really stated in the lore what his hair color is, and the Lord of the Rings LCG by Fantasy Flight chose to have Legolas as a brunette. Now this might seem like an odd segue, but it brings up one of my biggest hopes. The very first place I saw Magali Villeneuve's artwork was in the Lord of the Rings LCG, and I hope that she gets some pieces in this set. Her artwork in the LCG was very photorealistic, which I know is a problem for some in the community. There is something very surreal and unearthly that I really enjoyed from her years at Fantasy Flight, and was very excited when I started seeing more of her artwork in Magic the Gathering. The revealed pieces for this set are pretty awesome so far, and they say that the art will fit at home with Magic's aesthetic, which I take more or less that they are going to be using familiar artists like Tyler Jacobson and hopefully Magali as well. It would be amazing if they could somehow use art from legends like Alan Lee and John Howe, but I have a feeling that would require a higher power to get them involved. I'm a little perplexed about what to expect power level wise. They are injecting it straight into Modern by passing Standard, Pioneer, and Explorer. They state the reason is to make it available to play to the most amount of people as possible. It says to not be designed with Modern as a focus like Modern Horizons was, but they didn't want it to impact the Standard environment. So based on this, my guess is the power level will lie somewhere between Modern and Standard. I know we are going to get new mechanics in this set, but I think it would be fun to see how existing mechanics might fit into it. Mass is definitely a pet mechanic of mine. It may not be the most powerful ability, but it has a special place in my heart. To amass, you put a +1/+1 counter on an army you control. If you don't control one, create a 0/0 black zombie army creature token first. The best aspect of it is that it had a series of zombie token lords, my favorite of the bunch being Gleaming Overseer. Gleaming Overseer amasses and gives all zombie tokens hexproof and menace, which makes it good for zombie decks, which create a lot of zombie tokens. Now, if this mechanic returns in the Lord of the Rings set, it's obviously not going to be a zombie army. I could see them changing the mechanics to something like Amass Gondor, which would create a human knight army token, or Amass Mordor for an orc soldier army token. I think it'd be cool to see lords like Gleaming Overseer for each nation in Middle-earth. Elf and human lords that also amass an elf or human army would be pretty powerful, even if it only gives a +1/+1 buff to their tribe. On the other hand, they could also do like token lords, where instead of specifying zombie tokens, it could just be tokens in general. If I had to corner this ability into a specific set of colors, I would like to see it being in Jund colors this time, as opposed to Grixis when it appeared in War of the Spark. Another mechanic that I have loved since I began playing Magic is Exalted. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. I could see Exalted making a return for the Lord of the Rings. Characters like Gandalf, Frodo, Bilbo, and even Gollum all seem to have moments in the series depicting great feats that they had to do alone. Gandalf fighting the Balrog, Frodo bearing the One Ring, Bilbo going into Smaug's lair alone, and Gollum's basic survival for hundreds of years keeping this ring secret. On the mechanical side of things, it would play well with Amass if somehow all of my ideas come true in this video. Kamigawa Neon Dynasty also had a sub-theme of samurais and warriors attacking alone, which I could see as a plant for Exalted or a similar mechanic appearing in an upcoming set. Sagas have become deciduous in Magic the Gathering, and I think that they'd be a great fit for an inclusion in this set. The first thing that comes to mind is the story of Beren and Luthien, but I could also see this as a way to do some nods to things that happen in The Hobbit. Theros Beyond Death and Kaldheim have even shown events that are happening in the recent past or even as a part of the story. So maybe we could see things like Bilbo's birthday party or Gandalf's confrontation with the Balrog. We've now had 3 varieties of sagas since their introduction. There are the basic ones introduced in Dominaria, the flip ones from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, and the recent ones with Read Ahead from Dominaria United. I would love to see the flip ones from Kamigawa, but I think we're going to get the standard ones this time. There also has been a few sagas revealed in the 40k Commander decks, so I take it as a good sign that sagas may return in this set. Adventure cards first debuted in the set Throne of Eldraine, and the first thing that came to mind when I saw this mechanic was the scene of Bilbo running out of the Shire in The Hobbit: The Unexpected Journey. Regardless of how you feel about the Hobbit movies, there is something so pure about this scene it always brings a smile to my face. I could see adventures making a return in this set to showcase some of the key moments in the story, and also could be used to showcase some of the events in The Hobbit and the appendices. The art of the Balrog and Gandalf standing off against each other also seems like it could be representing an adventure. One thing that separates Lord of the Rings from most of the worlds of Magic the Gathering is the amount of flying creatures. I can see this set being one of the lowest with creatures with flying that has ever been made. Candidates for flying I think will most likely be for the Nazgul, the Eagles, and what seems to be bats in the puzzle-like picture we've gotten. And if they expand into the Hobbit, we could also get a Smaug card as well. So is it going to be a flying light set, or are they going to do something different? Horsemanship was a replacement mechanic for flying in Portal 3 Kingdoms that within the parameters of the set worked well, but did not work well with Magic as a whole. There was talk about eradicating horsemanship to being able to be blocked by creatures with flying and reach. I honestly don't think they will resurrect horsemanship, but it's interesting to think of how one of the most used mechanics in Magic's history is going to play out in the set. Are we going to see cards like Gondor Doves, If they do use the Hobbit in the set, are we going to get a card of the thrush that reveals Smaug's weak spot? And from the artwork, it seems like WotC is taking the non-flight stance on the Balrog debate. Mark Rosewater even addresses this in a recent article about designing for Universes Beyond, and he had this tidbit to say. Magic as a game has certain elements that must exist in every set. I've talked numerous times about the design skeleton we use to make sure that those components have a place in each file. Not every IP has those elements. The best example of this problem is evasion. Magic is very creature-based. Without any help, the game will end up in a creature stall where neither player can attack the other. To deal with this issue, every set has evasion so that creatures can break through any creature stall. The most used form of evasion is flying. Well, some IPs don't have a lot of flying creatures in it. For an upcoming release where this is it's a challenge to design a set with enough flying creatures. Yes, there are other kinds of evasions to lean on, but it's symptomatic of the kind of challenge that other IPs can present. As seen in both Adventure in the Forgotten Realms and Battle for Baldur's Gate, they aren't afraid to give the Planeswalker card type to characters not within the Magic the Gathering canon. In the two D&D sets, there's some inconsistencies on the power level of the characters. Some characters who received this treatment are godlike beings like Lolth and Bahamut, but they also give it to adventurers like Minsk and Eliwick. So it seems like it's more of a card design decision than dealing with lore. I think the two most likely candidates, in my opinion, are Gandalf and Sauron to become the Planeswalkers of Middle-earth. It's kind of a contentious subject for me because any character who becomes a Planeswalker in this set might not be available as a legendary creature for Commander. The best case scenario is having two versions of the same character, one as a Planeswalker and one as a legendary creature. I think Gandalf will probably be expressed both as Gandalf the Grey as a creature and Gandalf the White as a Planeswalker. The art we have seen with Gandalf does seem more oriented for a creature card rather than a Planeswalker, so I'm pretty confident we will at least have Gandalf the Grey as a creature. Sauron, I think, would be a perfect candidate as a Planeswalker because he is more of a presence in the story than a physical in the front lines being. So that's just a few of the thoughts and speculating that I have going in my head right now for the set. If you have any other ideas, be sure to put them down in the comments. And I'm sorry, I have kind of a cold, so I wanted to get this video out, but I kind of sound kind of eh. But if you liked the video, please make sure to like and subscribe to my channel, and please leave a comment below if you feel like it. And I think that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.